Okay, so I want you to imagine that you are waiting in a hallway full of doors. And at the ends of the hallway, there's this one door that you know in your heart, in your soul, you feel it in your energy, that that door leads to everything you've ever wanted, your dream life. But the thing is, because you know it leads to everything you've ever wanted, you now feel like you want it badder than you've ever had before. But because you know that that one door leads to everything, you start to get so impatient and you start to try to kick down the door. You start to try to pound it down. You may even get a tool or a few and try to beat down that door, whatever it takes. But no matter what you try, you just cannot beat down this door. It won't budge. And so because it won't budge, you feel really discouraged. You feel like your dreams are almost taunting you at this point, just being so close, but yet so far away at the same time. You may even begin to feel like what you desire isn't even possible anymore because that door is staying shut. But do me a favor. Imagine for a second a world where instead of continuing to try to beat down that door, you take a step back, you chill out a little bit, you relax, and you trust that the door will open when it's meant to. And until then, you become flexible with your approach. And throughout that process of you waiting, of you relaxing, of you enjoying maybe and becoming flexible, you take a look around and you notice a key on the floor that maybe you wouldn't have been able to notice before when you were trying to pound that door down. In today's video, we are talking about how trying to force things into our life actually keeps them locked out. Hey everyone, welcome back to Just Like Magic with Julia. In today's video, we are talking about 4 mindset shifts that you can make no matter what you want to manifest. But before we get into the 4 mindset shifts, you know I have to ask you all to subscribe if you are not already subscribed. Now, I hope by now all of my gems are subscribed. If you are someone who has been watching a few videos, please join the community. If you don't know, now you know that Just Like Magic was created for all of my girls and everyone in general to really just have a community where we can work on our mindset, cultivate a really beautiful lifestyle to manifest our dreams and share that with each other. So if that's something that aligns with you, please join. I can't wait to hear from all of my gems. Let me know in the comments if you have any special requests on content that you want to see. One compliment I have been given consistently over the last couple of years is that I've been able to manifest anything that I want with just changing my mindset. I've literally been told by friends and family that they can visibly see the shift in my mindset and the impact that it's had on my life. Okay, so we are not going to waste any time today. You all came for the 4 secret mindset shifts. So get comfortable, get some snacks because we are going to get right into it now. The first mindset shift has to do with patience. Now, I want you all to remember this quote. Patience is the remedy for every trouble. Now, believe it or not, patience and I have a bittersweet relationship. I used to struggle with patience a lot, especially when I was younger. I was always a kid who knew what I wanted, when I wanted it, and I wanted it when I wanted it. I hated waiting. Waiting was probably like the worst thing that I could endure as a child, honestly. I felt like the in-between time was so tedious and so annoying, but it wouldn't take away the fact that the in-between time was out of my control. And as I got older, I also hated patience because I always felt like I wanted to rush my goals. Like I didn't want to be patient with myself and my journey. If I wanted to do something, I wanted to do it within the least possible amount of time that it could take. And personally speaking, this was because I wanted to meet society's expectations of success. If I had an idea of what success looked like, I wanted to rush through the whole process in order to just reach that point. For example, I wanted to rush through positions and salary increases just to get to the pinnacle of what I thought was success. Whatever certain point I had already labeled in my head as the point that I would finally be content at was the point I was rushing towards. And this is because when you're impatient, you want to rush the process. You don't enjoy the journey. You don't actually appreciate the milestones. You're just speeding through it all because you have already cooked up a fantasy in your head of what success actually looks like. So everything else in between is just the in-between time. In my experience, when I've done this, I've failed to realize that the plan can actually be much bigger than I even imagined. When you're impatient, you're walking around with blinders on to all the beauty that there is around you because you're rushing to get to a different point. Because you've decided that what you want is what you want and you want it when you want it, you've also decided that it probably means something more about you if you don't get what you want. Sometimes when we don't get what we want in a certain range of time that we've set for ourselves, we can feel like we're failing or that we're less than other people who have gotten that desire. But the truth is, impatience only stems from fear. And as we all know, fear only breeds more fear. When you strip away ego from your goals, and when you just think about why you want to do what you want to do, not so much about how it defines you as a person or your experience or your success and accomplishments, but just about the reason why you want to do it. Does time really actually matter? Doesn't the real enjoyment just come from doing the things that you love, plain and simple? When you're impatient, it's because something deeper in your mind is saying, if I don't get this now, then I'm failing to meet an expectation or I'm not in control. And that right there is fear. And that fear can actually make you believe that you're not even capable of getting what you want in the right time. When you're impatient, you're really just fearful. And when you're acting out of fear, it's because there's an urgency, there's an anxiety to act on something, to avoid this feeling of the unknown, of the scariness that makes us fear, that makes us want to be impatient. In order to shift this, to be able to manifest, we have to realize that if we're being called to wait, it's because there is something more to learn in the process to manifest. And the way we are going to do this is by fixing the way that we view waiting. I need you all to realize this. Just because we are not being instantly gratified and being handed our desire in the time that we deem is the right time for this desire, we are not being told no. Okay, who are we to actually dictate when the appropriate time for something bigger than us is? I also need you to remember that we live in a world right now where everyone looks like they're getting everything so fast. But just because it looks that way doesn't mean it's real, doesn't mean it's true. We don't get to see everyone's journey when we go on TikTok, right? We only get to see the viral videos, the viral moments, the highlights, the reels, right? So I need you to remember that things take time. I know that sometimes we get caught up in instant gratification. So do I. Like I said, I started off this video by saying I do not have the best track record with patience, okay? We have a bittersweet relationship. But just because it's not an automatically amazing relationship doesn't mean we can't improve. So we need to understand that not everything is going to happen right away in the time that we deem it to be the right time. If you are being called to wait, it is because you're being called to grow and change, and those things take time. In order to master patience, you have to master the emotion of urgency, of feeling like you need to act right away. And in order to do so, you have to practice being calm, because keeping calm and understanding that things take time and things will unfold the way that they're meant to in the right time is key to patience. Instead of viewing waiting as discouraging, view it as a test to actually prove how committed you are to your vision, to your dreams, to your desires. Do this by letting it go and continuing to work on whatever is in your control in that moment. View each moment of waiting as a chance to grow, as a chance to prepare for your desire. And this kind of plays into that concept of nothing is happening to you, everything is happening for you. So take advantage of that time that you're being given to grow, to prepare, right? Everyone complains about how they never have enough time. If you need to be patient about something, you have time. You have time. And time, as you all know, is truly a gift. So use it to your advantage. When you have time to actually think, you have time to do something. So instead of using that time to be impatient and to think about how something's not coming in, use it to better yourself, use it to prepare. Put that into constructive action. The thing is, if you choose to resist patience, you are going to focus solely on the fact that you feel as though you are not getting what you want when you want it, meaning that things should only go your way. Which leads us to the next mindset shift, which is flexibility. I don't know if any of you listen to the rapper Russ. He just released an album called Santiago not too long ago. And there's this song on the album that I love called Adventure. And the first line of that song is, "What are you gonna do when it doesn't work out as you thought it would?" When I heard that line, I was like, oh, damn, that's a good one. Because honestly, like, I think a lot of people struggle with that. We manifest, we get what we want. And then if it doesn't go to a T, like we planned it out in our heads, then we're mad. Or furthermore, let's just say we are not even talking about our desire yet. We're talking about our journey there, right? So if our journey there doesn't look like what we planned out that journey to be, what are we going to do? Are we going to adapt? Are we going to pivot? Or are we going to be fixed? Are we going to be resistant? So what will you do? I know, thinking back to my past, especially when I was younger, if things didn't start playing out like I thought they would, I would become really concerned because I thought it was a poor reflection on me. I thought that it was signaling that I was unworthy or incapable of doing something greater, simply because it was out of my control. Or I just thought that what I wanted wasn't possible. Pivoting and adapting were probably the last two things that would ever have come to my mind because I didn't want to let go of my control. And it actually wasn't until a few years ago when I had to do an internship for a license I was getting that really, really, really required me to be flexible. And I'm not just talking like flexible with my time, I'm talking flexible with my mindset. I kid you not, one second I would be at a desk writing something or typing something, doing like just one form of work. And then the next second, I'm being asked to literally go into a room and lead a workshop in front of like 30 people. And I had to adapt on the fly. And at that time in my life, that concept was so uncomfortable to me because all I wanted was to cling to structure. I was struggling with being uncomfortable and just going with the flow because I thought that my life should look one way. I had a plan in my head about how my life should look at that time, how my day should look at that time. If something contradicted that plan or took me for a spin, I would become so anxious. The crazy thing is, the more I tried to hold on to that routine or plan or structure, the more anxious I would become. And I feel like it's because I was so fearful of letting go. Because I really had this thought that I was unable to handle the uncertainty of certain situations. And the truth is, a lot of people actually fear uncertainty because we actually don't account for it in the plans that we make in our head. And that isn't always the most realistic. At some point, I had to acknowledge that uncertainty can also lead to greatness and blessings and abundance. But that starts with realizing that some of the best things in life aren't planned. I know if I asked you right now to look back onto your life, you didn't plan to meet your best friend. You didn't plan to meet the love of your life. You may have not even planned to get the job that you're working right now. Things happen in unexpected ways sometimes. The universe, God, whatever you believe in, knows where to place us in order to receive the blessings that it has in store for us. So only thinking that happiness can look one way for you is blocking you from so many more blessings. Shifting from this mentality of things should only go my way to I trust that adapting brings new opportunities will really open your world up. And opening yourself up will actually allow you to see life as the adventure that it really is. Remember that God is a lot greater and a lot bigger than what you can even imagine it to possibly be. I personally feel like God knows me better than I know myself. So I have to trust God to put me in situations that maybe my human mind can't fathom I would flourish in or can't fathom I would see some sort of light or positivity in, but that God wants me in because I trust Him. Being open and adaptable to change when things don't go as planned is the epitome of being flexible. And if this is something that's hard for you, my advice would be to focus on the process and not the outcome. Stepping away from what feels stable, from what feels predictable, can be really scary. I sympathize with that a lot as someone who's literally gotten anxiety from trying to resist being flexible. But True stability actually comes from being able to adapt to your circumstances and trusting that you are there for a reason. And the next mindset shift can actually help with that. The next mindset shift is acceptance. Now, acceptance is one of the most powerful mindset shifts that we can make, but it also can be one of the hardest. Acceptance means truly embracing a situation, a person, or an outcome without trying to change it. Now, I don't know if you all know this about me, but because I'm a Virgo, I can sometimes be a little controlling and a little resistant to situations that may be out of my control. For example, like I said, because I am a Virgo, I'm also the person that all of my friends and family call for advice. And so when my friends call with their dilemmas, I am literally that friend that will be invested. I'm on the phone with them for hours, okay, trying to understand, empathize, trying to come up with the perfect conclusion, situation, advice, outcome for them. If you are that friend, drop a comment in the comment section and let me know how it feels too, okay? Because I know you empathize with me right now. And if you're also that friend, you know exactly what it's like when you spend so much time being invested in someone you care about's problems or dilemmas, and then you give them the best advice and then they don't take it. And I'm personally always resistant to accepting that they chose to do things differently, because personally I feel like the solution I offered is the best. But the truth is, my approach, my advice is only the best based on my experiences and thoughts. And acceptance also means respecting that other people will have different thoughts, different experiences, and therefore will choose differently sometimes. And respecting that things will look differently for everyone and everything is a huge part of trusting the universe. Sometimes situations, people, outcomes may not be what we want, but when we accept that, we realize that it's a part of the process and the bigger picture. When we accept what is, we release our grip and become more trusting of the process. And when you trust the process, you open yourself up to growth. You begin to let things unfold naturally and be present with what's in front of you instead of trying to control things. When we're resistant to accepting things as they are, it's because we have a desire to control. And sometimes we may have even grown an attachment to a particular outcome. Now, when we attach ourselves to a particular person, situation, or outcome, it's usually because we've idealized this outcome to be the one thing that can fulfill us. In our minds, we begin to believe that this is the only way that we can feel happiness or secure or fulfilled. We tend to fantasize about that one particular outcome to a point then where anything outside this particular fantasy or idea becomes uncomfortable or uncertain. And then in turn, we then feel like nothing outside of that fantasy is capable of fulfilling us. We close ourselves off to other opportunities and possibilities and forms of happiness and change because anything outside this fantasy doesn't seem like it's capable of fulfilling us. And nothing can match up to the fulfillment or happiness that we picture for ourselves in these ideas and fantasies. But when we do this, the reality of the situation is that fantasy, that idea, isn't actually reality. It's not present moment. It's simply just what we've thought to be the best version of stability or happiness, but nothing that's actually proven to do so. This kind of attachment or fixation can really resist acceptance because it closes ourselves off to any other form of happiness or fulfillment. And this kind of attachment or fixation can really resist acceptance because we tend to close off to the value that other people, other outcomes, other situations can bring. And this can keep us stuck in a cycle of desiring something that we've imagined to be fulfilling, that may not be as perfect or fulfilling as we imagined it to be. When we shift our minds to accepting things as they are in the present, we are not abandoning our desires. We're actually embracing that if they are capable of providing us with that unmatched fulfillment that you have in your head and in your fantasy, the universe will bring that to us. But until then, embracing and accepting what naturally is will allow us to be open to other possibilities and other experiences that may actually bring us happiness in unexpected ways. Acceptance also reinforces that even when you release control, the universe will always lead you to something valuable, which emphasizes faith, bringing us to our last mindset shift: surrendering. While releasing control and embracing acceptance, patience, and flexibility open the door to growth, surrendering is that one practice that takes everything to the next level because it signals to a higher power that you are putting your complete trust and your complete faith in its hand for what it has in stores for you. Surrendering isn't about giving up, and I feel like that's where people kind of go wrong with it. It's actually about trusting that something bigger than you, that loves you more than you can ever even love yourself or the world, is guiding you. In fact, I'll go out on a limb here and say that surrendering is probably one of the deepest acts of faith that there is, because when you surrender, you release the fear and resistance to what is. The reason why I actually love surrendering as the fourth and final mindset shift to this video is because you need acceptance, flexibility, and patience to truly surrender. We've talked about how the fear of the unknown can manifest into lack of trust or attachment. But once we practice acceptance, patience, and flexibility, we're able to accept that we don't actually have to have every single thing planned out. When we let go, we make space to be amazed by what life has in store for us. The best example that I can think of personally from my own life is meeting my best friend. I remember when I was 11 years old, I literally wanted to go to this one school in the town that I grew up in. Everyone that was cool was going to this school. I took one step into that school and I said, nah, not for me. There was too many people, it was too big, and it just wasn't the environment for me. So I remember that actually being one of the times that I turned to God and I prayed. And not only did he put me in an environment that I really loved and thrived in, but I met my best friend who till this day we're best friends. We've been best friends for 15 years. I did not plan that at all. I could never have planned that even if I wanted to. I was just going with the flow and letting life guide me. Obviously, I was younger, but I was surrendering. I just didn't know it. And because I was surrendering, I was aligned. And I met someone who has changed my life for the better. This is an example of how when we let go, we surrender. And when we surrender, we are aligned with where we need to be, even if it's not where we imagined. When we constantly imagine where we need to be, we're letting our ego be in control, whether we know it or not. Our ego is attached to specific outcomes out of fear of the unknown or a need to be validated. Our ego is always going to want to be in constant control because it really wants to believe that it knows best. But all it really ends up doing is causing more frustration and chaos. Because when we look for things outside of us to pacify our ego, it becomes a never-ending cycle. When we do this, we begin to be dependent on external factors to make us feel validated and worthy. And when we do that, we ignore the flow of life. We resist it. We start to buy into the illusion that we can control every single direction of our lives. And in some cases, everything else as well. We lock into this idea of how things should unfold. But the truth is, we're always in a constant evolution. We're always growing, we're always changing. And what we may think may be the best for us today may actually not fulfill us tomorrow. Our values, our desires, our needs all change as we experience life. So when we fixate on the original idea of how life should unfold, we potentially put barriers up to what we're willing to accept from the universe. And when we do this, we're limiting our own potential. But when we release our ego, or at least put it in check, and make the mindset shift to surrender, we embrace all of the beautiful opportunities and possibilities that a higher power has in store for us, which is always greater than what we could have even imagined for ourselves. This doesn't mean that things will always go as planned, but that we're being led to a place where our happiness is guaranteed. A place that we probably don't even know exists because our human minds, our ego, can't even see that far. In order to make this mindset shift to surrendering, we have to actually get real and think about the things that we want to control the most. What have you been resisting most? What areas of your life were coming up when we were talking about acceptance, patience, and flexibility? What do you tend to overthink about most? Once we actually know the answers to these questions, we can start to examine fear and replace it with trust. Accepting that our worst fear is 9 out of 10 times really irrational, but even in the worst case scenario, you'll survive. When we actually come to that conclusion, we're able to begin to start implementing small acts of trust and surrendering into our day-to-day lives. Even if it's just starting small, just warming up to the idea of surrendering and the fact that the universe has what's best for you in store. Practice allowing situations to unfold naturally and implement the elements of patience, flexibility, and acceptance into your own life. That will reinforce the idea that we're always being guided to what's best for us, even when we actually can't see it. This will strengthen the faith that we have in the actual process of life. Remember that the universe always has a way of leading us exactly where we need to be. So trust it and allow yourself to surrender. Thank you all so much for making it to the end of this video. Hopefully by now you know exactly what the 4 mindset shifts you have to make in order to manifest whatever you desire are. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please let me know exactly what you'd like to see in our next video. Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I can't wait to see all of my gems in the next video. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.